The tax-free savings account might just be the most powerful savings tool in all of Canada. Yet every single week, I see people making these simple mistakes that end up costing them thousands of dollars. So in this video, I'm going to go through 5 things you should never do with your TFSA and how to make sure you're getting the most out of the account. So the very first thing is don't overcontribute. Overcontributing to your tax-free savings account is very costly. In fact, it costs 1% penalty every single month on the overcontribution. And the reality is a lot of people that overcontribute don't mean to, so when it happens, they don't realize it for many months. And we've seen people incur penalties and fees into the thousands of dollars. So be very aware of your contribution limit and not going over that threshold. Currently in 2025, the maximum contribution limit is $102,000. That is if you were 18 in 2009 when the TFSA was introduced and you've never made a contribution. Now, if you've made contributions and taken money in and out, your contribution limit could vary, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But if you've never contributed to your TFSA, you were 18 years old in 2009, and you were in Canada and been gaining that contribution room over time, don't make any contributions over $102,000 or you'll run into that penalty of 1% per month. So let's take an example. Let's say you have maxed out your TFSA and you accidentally put in an extra $5,000. Well, that $5,000, again, every single month is going to cost you 1%. And again, a lot of people don't realize they put too much money in till the following tax year. And oh shoot, I had $5,000 in there for an extra 10 months. You're paying that $50 every single month. So it's a $500 tax bill or penalty that you're going to pay when CRA sends you that bill. So again, just be very aware of your contribution limit. You can find your contribution limit online. So again, when you file your taxes, you can log into your CRA account and review your contribution limit. Again, we've done many videos on the details of how that works, but really understand how much you can put in. And if you're not sure, wait a little bit, wait till you file your taxes for the year, typically April, May, and it'll be a more accurate number online, and then work off of that one going forward. Before we jump into number 2, if you haven't already checked out our podcast, we have a brand new Retirement Unpacked podcast that comes out every single Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And it's myself and people from our team, our planning team here, and we dive into your questions. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out. Instead of our typical videos like this, where we kind of zone in on one topic, our podcast covers many topics. So make sure to check that out. So the second thing you should never do in your tax-free savings account is treat it like a bank account, meaning you're putting money in, taking money out. There's a lot of money movement in and out of that account. And we see this quite often, and we saw it a lot earlier, 2009 to about 2015. People would use it as a savings account, and I don't blame them because it's called a tax-free savings account. But really, it's more of an investing account. It should be an account that you're using for longer term, and don't treat it like a day-to-day banking account. Now, for some of you, it's, well, I've made money in my tax-free savings and I want to pull that money out. And every time I make a little bit, I want to pull that out. And that's totally fine. If that's part of your plan, no issues with that. The problem is when you take money out of your tax-free savings account, if you've already maxed out. So again, going back to that $102,000, you put that in, it's grown to $120,000. You take out $18,000, which is a gain in the account. You cannot make another contribution until the following tax year. So again, you can't treat it like a bank account. If you've maxed out your TFSA and you take money out, you can't put money back in, or else you're over contributing. You don't get that contribution limit back until the following year. So right now, as I record this October 2025, if I take money out of my tax-free savings account and I've maxed it out, which I have personally, I can't put more money in until the following year. So if I took out $5,000 today, January 1st, 2026, I could put in that $5,000 plus any new contribution room that's granted to me in 2026. So how is your contribution room calculated? And this is really important because a lot of you get lost on this. So your TFSA contribution room is a total of the following: the TFSA dollar limit of the current calendar year plus any unused contribution room from the previous year, plus any withdrawals made the previous year, minus any contributions already made this year. That is your total available contribution room. So again, go through that process. So for some of you that have that money in, money out, it can become very, very complicated and cumbersome to track that. But B, a lot of you are over contributing. So make sure you go through, how is my TFSA actually calculated? Because even early in the year, January, February, March, if you log into CRA, often that number is not accurate, but because it hasn't fully integrated or included your contributions from the previous year. And that's why I say, if you want the most accurate number, typically wait till April or May. Then you need to calculate back. Did you make any contributions from January to that point of that year? And minus that off of, again, any contributions already made this year. So again, go through that calculation, get your exact TFSA limit, and then try and max it out as best you can. The third thing never to do in your tax-free savings account is excessive trading. Now, CRA has not come out with clear definition of what this is, but there are cases out there where CRA has come back and ruled a tax-free savings account as a business or anything other than a tax-free savings account, and people have had to pay tax on the gains they've incurred in there. So again, there is no clear definition. I get this question all the time. Well, Adam, how many trades can I do? Well, CRA hasn't come out with that. So just be very aware that yes, you can make trades and actively trade within your tax-free savings account and treat it like a trading account. But the idea is to grow that account long-term. And so if you get too active, and what is that? Maybe it's a trade a day, 2 trades a day. We don't know. There's no clear guidelines. So I can't help you there. But again, err on the side of caution. My philosophy on this, and again, this is my personal philosophy, is if you look at a mutual fund, if you own a mutual fund inside of a TFSA or an ETF inside a TFSA, that mutual fund or ETF is trading constantly all the time. So if it's able to constantly trade, I would assume an individual investor that buys and sells their own stocks should have some flexibility on being able to buy and sell on a daily or at least a weekly basis. Again, no guideline on this. My recommendation would be proceed with caution. Don't make too many trades. Obviously, monitor and manage your account accordingly, but don't get too active on the trading. Mistake number 4 that so many of you are missing out of, and please go back and check this, is you're naming a beneficiary, maybe not even naming a beneficiary at all, but you're missing that successor holder designation. And if you're married or common law here in Canada, you want to make sure you're listing them as a successor holder. And what that does is, if you were to pass away, they would take over your account and lump it into theirs. So they are essentially doubling their tax-free savings room. So if I've maxed out my TFSA 102,000, my wife has also maxed hers out, and I pass away, because she's the successor holder on my account, she would essentially inherit my account. So she now has $204,000 in her TFSA and essentially doubled her room. If she takes that out again, she would get that contribution room back the following year. So super, super powerful. So take a minute, jump into your TFSA account or contact your financial institution and ensure that if you are married or common law, that you've listed a successor holder and not just a beneficiary. Again, if you're not married to common law, list a beneficiary. Make sure you know where or who that money is going to when you pass away. The 5th and final mistake I wanted to cover here for the TFSA is using it as a savings account. And again, I mentioned earlier, a TFSA is a tax-free savings account. So of course you're using it as a savings account. But the real power of the tax-free savings account is to use it as a tax-free growth tool. Invest in that account. Make that money work for you. Again, everyone's got a different mandate and timeline and all that. But if you're using your TFSA for the longer term, make sure it's not sitting in GICs, high interest savings, earning 1%, 2%, 3%. You're really losing out on the power of the tax-free savings account. Again, it's a very, very powerful tool, something that can create a lot of wealth and be very flexible for you in retirement. When you need tax-free money, that's where you can draw it from. So it's a really powerful tool. So if you're someone sitting there saying, yeah, my tax-free savings account is in a 2% GIC or in a high interest savings earning 1.5%, that's a huge mistake. And if you want to see the difference between using your TFSA in savings versus investing, we have a full video on that, and you can check that out here.